Hi, welcome to the Craft Channel. My name's Corinne Brad, and today I've got a project for you to make, not for somebody else, but for yourself. If you're anything like me, you've got bits and pieces of crafty haberdashery, goodness knows what, in random places. And I have been lucky enough to get my hands on one of these Deflecto storage caddies. That's actually a stacking caddy. I don't have the other one with me, but you can stack them and clip them on one on top of the other. And you can just see everything really clearly through the see-through containers. And they clip in and they come out. And they're great for things like storing your cotton reels. But if, like me, you like to have a little bit of order, I say order, you should see the state of my house, a little bit of order in some of your haberdashery, I like to colour coordinate buttons so that if I know I'm looking for an orange button, I don't have to go through the whole jar of buttons. And it's difficult to do that in a big caddy unless you've got lots of orange buttons. So I've made some little divider trays in bright colours so that I can keep my buttons in some semblance of order. And what you'll notice with these is because these caddies are slightly tapered, so you can get things in and out of them easily, I've made my boxes slightly tapered. So this one is 5mm wider than the one at the bottom. So you don't just have to make these for the Deflecto caddies. You can make them for any storage caddy you like. I've actually got a quite nice idea. It's an old cutlery drawer, and I've made little drawers in this method so I can store buttons in a cutlery drawer on its side. What you need to do first of all is you need to measure your caddy. You need to measure the internal sizes of it. So up the top here, this one is just under 11 centimetres by just under 10. But then also think about accommodating the round corners, the other sections. So don't make your trays so large that you have struggled to get them in and out, but equally don't make them so small that they rattle about too much. And I would suggest what you do is you make a paper template first of all and check it fits in there or fits in your caddy before you commit to a piece of card. Now, I'm lucky enough to have a friend that works in retail, and she's lucky enough to have me to get rid of all her graphics boards. If you don't have a friend that works in retail, grey board works equally well, but you want something that's a bit sturdy because you want these to last. And to make my three, this one is 13.5 by 14.5, and you're going to go, well, hang on a minute, that's 11 by 10. The reason I've done that is because I want my trays to be 3 centimetres deep. So I've taken the size of the bottom that I want and I've added 3 centimetres to each side, so 6 centimetres to each dimension. And they just graduate down in size. So this one's 13.5, this is 13.3, and this is 13. Again, it's not an exact science, but what I can do is show you how to make a sturdy box, and then you can make them your own size. So as I say, each of those is going to be 3 centimetres high. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark a 3 centimetre line or a 3 centimetre border around each piece of card. And as you can see, that then, yeah, that fits in there. Just had to double check that in case I'd made it 2.5 centimetres. And then what you want to do, normally you would score it with a scoring tool, but because you're using quite thick board, you need to be a little bit more heavy-handed, shall we say. So, I'm very carefully going to cut it very lightly and then cut it heavier on these intersections. And it helps if you have a sharp blade in there. If you forget what you're doing and you cut it heavily all the way along so that your side piece falls off, it isn't the end of the world. You can tape it back. because we're going to be covering this with scrapbooking paper, which is normally, what, 160 grams, so it's quite a decent weight and it's quite sturdy. And you cut it heavier on those ends, or on the intersections, so that you can take out these squares at each corner. And I have saved squares on my corners because I'm sure there's something I can do with a 3 centimetre square of thick card. I just haven't thought of it yet. So take that, flip it over, and now you'd use your scoring tool just to indent the other side of where you've done that very faint cut line. And normally when you use a ball-ended scoring tool, you score it and then you bend it away from the score if you're making a card. In this case, I'm going to bend it towards the score. And where I've cut those sections, you've got a nice, crisp angle. So, grab yourself a piece of paper that is bigger than that for a start. Yeah, a bit of paper that's probably at least 1 centimetre bigger. And don't be tempted to glue the whole thing, just glue that base. Because you're going to use some of this paper as a joint. Put this down. And then what you want to do is you want to, like you would do if you're making a box, you're going to use these intersections to join the rest of your project. So if you just cut these two, and then also what I would do is I would taper that cut. It just gives a cleaner finish. And then I'm also just going to cut here and cut here and taper these down too. If I think of it, what I will do is I'll actually draw a template out for this so you can see the cuts without having to look, freeze it on the overhead. So now what you can do is you can glue these panels. Again, just glue the section that you want to stick. And then also, actually, what I've found is using a PVA on this top bit here dries a lot quicker than a dry glue stick. And fold that over, crease it well. And to make sure that stays in place while you're working, binder clips. Who invented binder clips? They are the most amazing thing. Do the same with the other side. A little bit of PVA or Mod Podge. A decent quality PVA that's not too runny. So that's made your long sides. And then what you want to do is you want to use these tabs to connect your shorter, are they the shorter sides? Yeah, they are the shorter sides. So again, a little bit of glue. Fold it in and make sure that this is as perpendicular as you can make it. And then glue. Just keep sliding away. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to clip that actually while I glue the other side. In real time, when you're not filming and you're conscious of how long you people have got to watch this video, I would let the glue dry on most things. I'll do the same with this one, and then hopefully the glue will be dry enough by then that I can work on the other side. And if you don't have binder clips or anything, small pegs would work, or even just a little bit of patience, which, as you probably realise, I don't have a lot of. And try and make sure you make nice, crisp folds by running your fingers down. It's not imperative, it just gives a much cleaner look. And then again, just glue. And clamp your top edges down. And smother glue all over your cutting mat as you do so. So that's your basic box shape, but obviously it's still got the graphic print on the inside of it. So I'm just going to measure. This is now come down to 8.5 by 7.5. Bit confused there because I think I've made, oh no, it has come down there. And that's what I mean about give yourself a bit of give, because when I originally measured that was 10 by 11. I've now brought this down to 7.5 by 8.5. So I've taken 2.5 centimetres off that initial width at the top to allow for it to fit in there nicely without it getting stuck, but without it moving about too much. So what did I just say? 8.5 by 7.5. And then what I want to do is I want to add 2.5 centimetres to each bit for the inside. I don't want to do 3 because I want to leave a little border. If you bring your lining right up to the edge of it, what will happen is it will just get caught and it will get burred and it will get messy. So 7.5 by 8.5 plus 5 to each side is, I can't even work that out, 12.5 by 13.5. Soon find out if I'm right with that, won't we? 12.5 by 13.5. This is actually a quilter's rule that I use here. Obviously you don't need a quilter's rule if you've got a cutting mat, but it is really handy for just cutting rectangles and then also cutting 2.5 centimetre corners out of it. But you can do it just as easily with a gridded cutting mat and a ruler. I'm not even going to save those bits. And then you can score them, or you can just use the back of your thumbnail to crease these up. Fold the sides in, and before you put any glue anywhere near this, just check the fit in your box. Now I've actually made that slightly too big, so what's going to happen is if you try and stick it inside your box, you're going to end up with a rucked up bottom, and nobody likes a rucked up bottom. So I'm just going to score these in a little bit more. And that's the beauty of using a decent quality scrapbook paper, because it's flexible, but it can withstand an awful lot of mucking about with it and refolding and retrimming. And if the worst comes to the worst, you can iron it to get the worst of your creases out. And I'm just going to clip out a little bit extra on each of these. Just be wary of cutting these too short, because what happens if you do cut them too short is when you then put it inside your box, you've got a gaping gap at the inside corners. But it all depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. On something like this, it's quite silly. I'll be quite a perfectionist on something like this. When it comes to doing the housework, not at all. So just fold them in again and check the fit. Yeah, that's much better. Decide which way you want your, let's have a flowery lining. Bit of glue on the bottom. Take your binder clips off. Pop your lining tray in there and push it well into the corners. And then if you fold down each side section, and dip the correct end of your paintbrush in your glue. It's going on my jeans. Put a goodly amount of PVA on there, because these baskets, I suppose you call them baskets, they will take an awful lot of wear if you're using them every day. And you know, if you mess them up, yes, you can always recover them. But if you're going to make a whole host of these, it's quite nice to think that they might still be in service in 10 years' time. And the beauty of this method is you can make them whichever size you like, and you can cover them in whatever paper you like. I mean, even if you just use them as little desk tidies. So that when you're working, you can just slip them out quite easily. And you can just slip them out quite easily because I've made them so that there isn't too much, they're not too tightly in there. And you can store, woo, put the lid back on my glue before I actually stick myself to it. You can keep all those sewing equipment and, you know, like needles and thread unpickers, and I've got a whole case of bobbins here. Ooh. I don't know about you, bobbins are the bane of my life. They just get tangled. But actually in something like this, they fit quite snugly. And it is easier to try and take them out with 2 hands, but yes, you can take them out with 1 hand. And I also think it might just be a little bit too snug. If you're making a gift for someone and you want a decent presentation box, it's just slightly too snug. This box was originally 5mm shorter in both directions than this one. I reckon if you made a box that was 6 or 7mm shorter and you gave it both a 3cm depth, you could make a really nice sturdy gift box, jewellery box, or as I say, just use it to store your own stuff. So I hope that's given you some ideas as to how you can make your own boxes and how you can make them quite easily and how actually they are really quite sturdy. So we've got more demonstrations coming up for you soon. I shall be sewing, I shall be paper crafting, I shall be doing all kinds of things. In the meantime, keep safe, keep crafting, and thank you very much for watching. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.